Hi everybody. I know this is unusual. I don't think I've ever taken a video of me talking to a camera, and so I feel a little weird, but that's okay. I felt like it was time for me to kind of share something that's been on my heart and in my mind the last several years. And so if I seem a little nervous, it's because I actually am. I feel like this is going to be, well, okay, let me just start by saying that today I want to talk to you a little bit about my spiritual journey and where I'm at right now, and share kind of my heart. And it's bothered me for a long time that I haven't really been able to share this with the people that I care about and the people that I love. And so I figured now is a good time. Basically, the last 10 and 15 years I've spent trying to rescue my faith. And as many of you know, I was raised as a Christian, and that's been a huge part of my life. It was something that dictated every choice that I made, everything that I did, and really has been the cornerstone of who I am as a person. But I have struggled, and actually probably most of you know that I've struggled with my faith. Sorry, my camera's shaking. My hands shake anyway, and then I get nervous, and then I shake more, but I don't have a stand for it. So anyway, basically I have struggled with questions and with concerns about whether what I believe is true or not. And trying to figure out where to start and where to go with this, because I want to share some of the details, but it's a very complex and multi-layered situation. But basically where I've ended up is, after spending the last, for sure, 10 years, but even longer than that, trying to really salvage my faith, I had to admit to myself that I don't believe in Christianity. And I know for some people this will be a good thing, and for some people it will be very distressing and will make you really sad and worried for me. And so a big reason that I haven't shared that with anyone, well, actually I have shared it with a few people, but not a lot of people. But the big reason that I haven't shared it with a lot of people is because I don't want to worry people, and I don't want to make people sad for me. And to be completely honest, I don't want people to look at me differently. And I find myself in a weird place, because a lot of times Christians feel like they, and I mean, I felt the same way, not purposefully, but I think deep down I did, that as Christians we have kind of a moral superiority, or that that Christians are just better people. And I know a lot of people who aren't Christians also actually feel completely the opposite. But so in a world where most of my friends are Christians, and most of the people around me in my neighborhood, in my life, and where we live now in South Carolina, in the Bible Belt, Christianity is a huge, huge part of people's identities, and it's been a huge, huge part of mine. And so I don't want people to think that I'm different, or that I have different moral priorities. My priorities are the same. I love people. I care about people. I want the best for people. I believe in honesty and integrity and being a person of character. I believe in reaching out to others. I believe in caring for others. I believe in loyalty and in marriage being a beautiful and wonderful and important thing. I believe in telling the truth and not stealing and not doing all those things. And so, but I've been scared, honestly, because I worry that people that I love are going to, like I said, I feel like people are going to look at me differently. But I could not have ended up where I could not have taken a different path. Where I'm at right now is something that I didn't want to have happen. I strived for a very long time to salvage my faith and to hold on to it and to reconcile it, but I couldn't. And there came a point where I had to admit to myself that I no longer believed in Christianity. And the day that I admitted that to myself, I sobbed for forever, like body-racking sobs of heartbreak. And I've looked for support groups because to me it's been a devastating loss in my life and was something that I did not want to lose. And I didn't know how it was going to change my marriage, how it was going to change the way I interacted with people. And to be honest, like, I'm not telling my mom, I'm not telling my mother-in-law. And if you know them, please don't, because those two people are people that are going to worry and be devastated by this. And please just respect me enough to not, like, they can't see this post. And it's something that I'm not trying to be deceitful. I'm trying to spare them the worry and the stress of thinking that someone that they love dearly is going to hell, honestly. And so please don't tell them. But to give you a little background, not to just spring this on people and then I'm not going to be able to explain everything that went into what I believe now. But I want to at least share a little bit. So, I'm naturally a very practical person. I'm someone who likes facts and science, and everything is a to-do list, right? It's a checklist. It's what are the steps? How do we get it done? How do we make this happen? And I like proof. And growing up, so some of you know this about me, some of you don't, but my dad, my family, were very trying to think of the right word. Dogmatic, maybe, would be the word. I don't know. They were very strict, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. There were things about it that were not great and things that were actually good to instill in us. But basically, my dad we went to church after church. We went to all the denominations. We were very devout. My parents prayed for people and believed that they saw miracles. And my mom will tell you she 100% saw miracles. And church was the number one thing in our life. Like, God was the number one thing. And in my life, not just my parents' life, throughout my teen years, that was my driving force. If you knew me during that time, you know that I was very invested. And I spoke to Jesus every single day. I prayed every single day. I read my Bible constantly. If I didn't, I felt extreme guilt. It was a driving force in every decision I made. I didn't date people who weren't Christians. I made a vow of purity where I wasn't going to kiss anyone even until I got married, which I mostly kept. Michael and I did kiss when we were dating, but that's a long story in and of itself. But purity was incredibly important to me. I avoided friendships with people who didn't go to my church because I didn't want to be unequally yoked, as we call it in the Christian world. And I spent all my time at church. I was in multiple ministries. It was my entire life. And as time went on, I started to have questions and things that I couldn't reconcile. And I would read my Bible and I would come away with concerns. The more deeply I dove into Christianity, the more things didn't make sense. And many people in my life will say that that this is all due to unanswered prayers, and that because my prayers weren't answered, such as when we lost our baby and we were trying to pray and believe that our baby would be okay. People will say that that's why I lost my faith, but that was a factor. Certainly, as I saw people who, there were some people, like one woman in particular that I knew from my youth group, and she was a leader, and she had several young children, and she had cancer, and everyone was praying for her. And I prayed so hard, and I sobbed, and I prayed, and I said, God, how could you let this woman leave her little kids alone? And everyone believed for her healing, and she died, and her family was left alone. And, so that certainly factored in. I had questions about that, and, questions because I prayed for a lot of things, and I had as much faith as you could have, basically. I mean, was I, the world's most faithful? Maybe not, but I had such faith. And there were scriptures such as, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you can move mountains. And, if 2 or 3 pray in my name, according to my will, it will be done for them. And there's lots of, look, I've read every single thing about every possible reason why prayers go unanswered, and I don't find them compelling. I think that the scripture is, okay, I don't want to go into all of that. Let's just say that that was part of it, but it was not all of it, even close. Like, not even a tiny portion. Well, it was a tiny portion of the things that led me to where I'm at right now. There were times where I thought, okay, it's my theology, or it's my denomination, or it's the specific beliefs that I have that are wrong, and I just need to read the Bible more. I need to do more research. I need to read more books. I need to do things until I can understand the things that didn't make sense to me. And the problem was, the more that I read my Bible, the more questions I had. And I did an internship, and I truly believe that I could not have done much more to try and salvage my faith, and to be able to continue to believe. And that's because I loved my faith. All of my friends were from my faith. It's incredibly, incredibly comforting to believe that the loved ones that have passed, that I will see them in heaven. It's incredibly comforting to think that this life that's pretty difficult and pretty exhausting, and that doesn't, to think that this is the only life we have is hard. And I want heaven to be real. And even more than that, Jesus was my friend. He was my comforter. He was my best friend. He was that unconditional love. And losing that is very heartbreaking. And sorry, I'm trying to get a good angle because the sun keeps coming and going, and my arm is tired. But Maybe I need to turn. I just don't want the sun to be making me completely unseeable. Anyway, so losing my faith was genuinely like a death. It was genuinely, I grieved so much. And I tried so hard to hold on to it. And I want you guys to know that I did not take this as a flippant decision or even a decision. Honestly, this was not a decision. This was something where I read everything that I could. I did everything I could to make it make sense. And intellectually, I could not ignore the problems that I saw in Christianity. And there were, like, I've read all the apologetics books. I've done all of the, I haven't read all of the apologetics books, but I've read many apologetics books. I've debated with philosophy professors who focus on the Bible. I've discussed with spiritual leaders in my life. I have asked friends for their input. I have prayed like you would not believe. And one day, I just knew that I didn't believe it anymore. And that's not something you can decide. You can't decide that you believe something that you don't. Just like you can't fall in love with someone. Even if you love them and you care about them and they're wonderful people, some people you fall in love with and are attracted to, and some people you don't. And you can't choose. Some people will say you can. I don't believe you can. I don't believe you can choose who you love. Not really. You can choose who you allow into your life and who you open yourself up to. That's a whole other thing. Okay, whatever. But I couldn't will myself to believe. And so I tried to convince myself to believe, and I couldn't convince myself. And so that day came, and as much as I wanted to, I could not. And so Michael knows, the kids, Peyton knows that I have questions, but the tricky thing is that Michael believes, and he wants to raise our children in Christianity, and so it's very complicated because, one, I felt like a phony to all of you, and when you asked me to pray, and I know that I don't believe in Christianity, that's why I don't say I'm praying for you. It's because I feel like that's false and fake, and I do still sometimes pray, honestly, and that's because even though I don't believe in Christianity, I don't know how the world was created necessarily. I do think evolution actually does make sense, despite being raised to believe that it was absurd and embarrassingly stupid to believe in it. I've learned over time that it makes sense, but so I don't know that the Big Bang happened. And honestly, I haven't really researched that much into that, because the one thing I've learned is that when you don't have something at stake, like, okay, believing in Christianity, if you believe in Christianity, you need to be evangelizing, and the stakes are so high. And so and it's a relationship that you have to maintain and develop, and so it takes work, and it takes time, and it takes effort, and that I didn't have a problem with that. But so I had to do the research into whether Christianity was true or not, and I had to put in the effort, because if it was true, then it affects every aspect of my life. I have to, and not like I have to, like as in God's forcing me to, but if you truly believe in Christianity, it impacts every area of your life, okay? It impacts everything. And so if it isn't true, that means that a lot of the things that I thought were important are not, and other things are more important. And but is whether the Big Bang is true or not, that doesn't impact me. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't change how I go about my life. It doesn't change what I do with my life or anything. It's like, okay. So I don't know about that, but honestly, I'm getting off topic. I'm not very good at talking to a camera. But ultimately, I guess I just wanted to say to everyone, I wanted to be honest, and I didn't want to feel like I was hiding the truth, and I didn't want to feel like a phony. And I've been really scared, like I said, to tell people that I love that this is where I'm at. And when I told Michael, honestly, we were laying in bed, and I knew I needed to tell him, and I waited weeks after I had the realization that I didn't believe anymore. And I was like shaking. I felt like I was admitting to an affair or something, and I didn't know how he would take it, and I didn't know how it would affect our marriage. And he took it really well, actually. He's been really great. And for those of you who are worried about it, he is praying for me and believes that God will reach me. And honestly, okay, here's the thing. Here's where I'm at with God. If he is as loving and just and all-knowing, then he knows how to reach me. And I'm okay with that. Like, that's where I've ended up, is, okay, God, if you're real, and if this is true, I don't know how you can reach me, because right now I have done everything in my power to salvage my faith. But God would know. And honestly, okay, that's a whole other thing. And if you guys have questions about like why I ended up here, I can share some of that with you. I will say that most Christians don't have a problem. Most of the Christians I've talked to are okay with just accepting things at faith. But my background and my history and my personality and the way that I approach the world and the way that I think about things, I can't justify that. And okay, this video's long. It's jumbled. I'm sorry. I needed to put this out there. If you have questions about how I ended up here, I'm willing to talk about them. And you can let me know. But just know that this was not something that I take lightly. This is not something that I did flippantly or decided or whatever. I haven't changed the way I approach life. I haven't changed the way I view the world as far as like morality and all of that. I'm the same person I was that you knew, who believed in Christianity. And I know that some of you are going to be really sad by this. I know, because I was, when I was a Christian and I heard that people stopped believing, it broke my heart. I'm sorry to worry you. I'm sorry that I don't believe. And for those of you who aren't a Christian, I think you either understand why, or maybe it just didn't matter to you. And this whole thing, like me making a 20-some minute video about this, is ridiculous. And for those of you who used to believe and no longer do, just know you're not alone. And I understand how difficult it is and how emotional it is and how